Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host, and the mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is one thing. Now, ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching us the truth of oneness for eons, and science is now caught up, but it's not even new science. The science of quantum physics is over 100 years old. So in truth, by now, everybody on the planet should know that we are all one. We are all connected. There is no separation. Separation is just an illusion. And it was actually quantum physics that gave me my spiritual awakening, because like I said, quantum physics and spirituality are teaching us the exact same thing. Welcome to my show today with Foster and Foster. Am I saying your name, first name right?
That's right, Foster and
Foster
Kimberly.
and Kimberly Gamble.
Right.
And the title of this show will be Truth and Freedom, because that has been my focus for the past 2 years. So please, Foster and Kimberly, introduce yourself. I'm sure a lot of people know you already, but please share your journey with our listeners.
Ladies first.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure to meet you and to be on your show. Let's see. So, well, professionally, I have served as the producer, director, and co-writer, and in the second film, co-host of Thrive, the first documentary, Thrive, What on Earth Will It Take? And the second, Thrive 2, This Is What It Takes, which afforded me a tremendous, adventurous decades full of exploration, both in creating the content for the films and then in the follow-on afterwards. We've had great success in it. The movie's been, I guess it's been seen by over 94 million people, and it's in 27 languages. And so the resulting opportunities have been fabulous and heartwarming and encouraging. And so it's a fun thing to be able to share with my partner in this, Foster, and also with the world.
Awesome. I love it. I did see it and I saw it. So now what year did Thrive 1 come out? Because I saw it like way back.
2011, 11 it came out.
Ah, great.
Oneness.
Oneness.
That's a lot of oneness.
Yes, master numbers. Master numbers.
Exactly.
Wow.
Right. And then Thrive 2 came out a little over a year ago.
Okay, yes, I've seen both. It's there. Like the work you're doing is amazing. That's why it's like, I have to get you guys on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm Foster Gamble, and I'm blessed to be able to be co-creative partners with my dear Kimberly. And I was the co-creator and co-writer and director of visual design for both the Thrive films, and now host my own show on the internet called The Freedom Portal. And we are also dedicated to truth and freedom.
Yes, yes. Truth and freedom has been my big theme, like I said, for the last 2 years. I launched my podcast 7 years ago, 6 months after my son's transition. And it was all about awakening people to the truth of oneness, which universal oneness. It's everywhere. It's in nature. It's like you can't deny that we are all one. And when people truly know that in their heart and soul, that will solve all of our problems. There will be peace on earth. There will be no more hunger. There will be no more poverty. Because we will all take care of each other as a family, the way it should be. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. And I want to echo that for a minute, because I don't know a more important point to make. And if we were all enlightened at that level and really experiencing that oneness, I agree with you that these problems would be gone. However, given the 7.5 billion people on the planet and our current situation, I would be a little panicked if I thought we needed to depend on universal enlightenment on the entire planet. And what we've found, and that we went into in ThriveOn and Thrive2, is that fortunately there seems to be, in our philosophy and in our activism, an intermediate step where if enough people, a critical mass of people, which can only be potentially somewhere between 6%, which was the American Revolutionary War, and 35%, which is the number of cultural creatives on the planet already, apparently. When a critical mass of people understand that oneness so deeply that they believe in what we identify as the universal morality, which is no one gets to violate anyone else against their will, then if that becomes our fundamental rule for society, then the entire legal system, the entire justice system, dispute resolution, everything will come out of that.
Right.
And it sounds obvious. It sounds like, well, isn't that the golden rule or something like that?
Yes.
Well, it's close, but it's a little more refined in that, because if you follow the non-aggression principle rigorously, then you would not be allowed to take someone else's money against their will, which is what taxation is. So that gets rid of all governments. And all of a sudden we're in not all of a sudden, but we end up in a stateless society, which is a transition that most people can't even imagine. But what we've been really focused on, and given that most of the problems we've investigated come back to this assumption that a few people should rule the rest, and in the form of government. It used to be, the pharaoh, and then it was the kings and the priests, and then it was the premiers and the presidents and so forth.
Yes.
And then it became democracy, and that's a huge step, but we're not there yet. So we laid that out in Thrive2, that the main thing in the way of us having access to great food and free energy and justice in the world is the notion that some people should govern us. So it comes back to this realization of oneness reduced to a rule that can protect us all now. It's not a rule on what people have to do. It's just a protective rule of what no one is allowed to do.
Exactly. I agree with you so much. It's basically, I just had, matter of fact, it's so funny because I just said this an hour or so ago to a friend of mine, that when the world is enlightened, and I know that can't happen overnight, but like you said about the 6% to the 35%, it only takes a little light to shine through the darkness. Because again, I'm going to go back to science, because everything ties back to science for me. Science has proven that high vibration, love, light, high vibration is much more powerful than fear, hate, war. All of that's low vibration. It's all frequency. And so it just takes a little bit of light energy to shine through all of that darkness. We don't have to, like you said, there's 7 billion people on the planet, not 7 billion, not even half of them have to awaken to the enlightenment for this to happen. Also, I think of the 100 monkey effect, where 100 monkeys learned something and then all the monkeys got it, because we're connected consciously. We're connected by the universe. So once that percentage, I believe we have already reached that percentage somewhere between, like you said, the 6 and the 30. I'm sure we're beyond that as far as people, especially the last 2 years. The last 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, really started waking people up by the millions. So it's a blessing. I've always said the pandemic is the greatest blessing to humanity, because something had to happen to wake up humanity. And having a pandemic was perfect. I see every challenge that we go through as a blessing. It's our greatest blessing. So
I have to agree with you out loud there, because though I would never have written the script for all the suffering that's come out of this, given that it happened, it shows the resilience and the true nature of human beings, that out of this fiasco, more people are growing their own food. More people are choosing consciously the schools for their children. Truth media outlets are springing up everywhere. You know, it's like seeds in the spring. More and more people who used to be called conspiracy nuts are now being looked to as conspiracy informants or analysts. And the list just goes on and on. And the main one I want to say is that what I've found is that when you wake up to what's really going on, it can be very challenging emotionally, intellectually, but especially socially. You know, you can lose your friends, your loved ones, your community. And yet what I've seen, particularly over the last 2 years, is as people make that leap to be loyal more to truth and freedom than to a political party, a nation state, a creed, a religion, whatever, what they end up doing if they hang in there is finding new friends on such a deeper level than a lot of their previous friendships, because it's really comes down to being based on being able to tell the truth with your friends, being free to actually live your life. So it comes back to, once again, to what you named the show. It's truth and freedom.
Very true. Very true. I say to people, I've never been political at all. I did not vote in 2020. And I had one friend very upset and talked to me for 3 months, and she's very much aboard on truth and freedom, but she was such a Trump supporter. She was upset with me. I didn't vote. So for 3 months, she didn't speak to me. Now we're speaking.
Oh, good.
But I have lost a lot of friends and family since March 2020, when I spoke up from the very beginning. I see through all of this. I said, as soon as they, in my state of Pennsylvania, as soon as they did a mask mandate, which was middle of April 2020, I refused to wear a mask. I posted it on Facebook. I lost a lot of friends. I said, I'm not wearing a mask because the next thing, and I said this in March of 2020, the next thing they'll be doing is mandating a vaccine. I saw it clearly what was coming. And for me, I think I was blessed in the sense that I had my spiritual awakening in 2007 through science, but I had my awakening to the globalists. We'll call them the globalists, a lot of names for them, but the globalists and their hand in controlling the world. I had that awakening in 2012. And from that awakening, before the pandemic was put in our face, I'm like, I see you clearly. I see what's happening, so, and I think there's that level of both. There's that spiritual awakening to the truth of who you are as a sovereign divine being of light. And then that awakening, because when you have that awakening of who you are, nothing frightens you. You stand in your truth regardless of what it looks like on the outside. And then that awakening to who really is controlling this world and has been controlling this world for centuries.
Yeah, I definitely see those going together, because I think the whole thing about oneness is that it defines differently who we are and what is this experience on life as a human. And so the notion of anything being more significant or important than that that is the fundamental truth, and everything else then is part of our conscious evolution on top of it. That's all there is this sort of evolutionary process of. And so I think I know when we did ThriveOn, which was a real, deep dive and kind of a comprehensive look at the globalists and about what is it that's in the way of our thriving, and how so much of the power and money are all consolidated in the same few hands, and how did it happen, and what are the consequences, and what can we do? That was, we came out with that, and what we found is that the first adopters to the movie were really from the consciousness movement. And I had thought initially that it was going to be more sort of activists in the political arena, but it was the consciousness group who were, I think, willing to see more clearly because they had a broader definition of who they were. And there was something that they weren't so afraid of dying or of having their worldview shake, because they weren't their worldview. They had a bigger identity. I guess that's what it was. They had a different identity and a bigger identity than that I am my worldview. So that really helped. And I have certainly experienced that myself in my own life, what a difference it makes.
Yes, very true. Like I said, for 7 years, I've been doing my show. In the first 5 years, it was basically focusing on awakening people to the truth of who they truly are. And on there, for me, I would inspire people to go within, tap into your individual unique truth and live it. Live your truth, not be afraid to be who you are, and then March 2020 comes along. It's like, okay, I've never been an activist in my life until March 2020. It's like, okay, humanity is under attack right now. And I've got to shake these. My first thought was, I've got to shake people awake. And then my higher self said, after 2 months of trying to shake people awake, my higher self said, stop it. You can't shake people awake. Just like I woke up in my own divine timing, in my own divine plan, they will. All I can do is share in love and light, because I never argue with people, but I find out trying to shake people awake and then they won't wake up lowers my frequency. And so I need to keep my frequency high. I need to share in love and light. I don't argue. I just share in love and light. I'm planting seeds.
Well, it's become especially challenging recently because the focus has moved from, banking and food and education and so forth to health. And when you see your friends being threatened, they're literally their health, their well-being, and their lives being potentially.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that conversation I had with Kimberly and Foster. That was awesome. There are a few things I thought about after I finished recording that I just want to emphasize. I did mention them, but I want to emphasize something Foster had said about my sense of peace and my sense of joy in the midst of chaos. And I know a lot of people have trouble understanding that. And it has to do with not just being awake spiritually, but also being able to see what's going on in the world at the same time. And that's two kind of different awakenings. I know I had those two awakenings at different moments in my life. I had my spiritual awakening to the truth of who I am in 2007, and that was brought on through watching a film about quantum physics. And it was a true awakening from the inside. So that film inspired my awakening, but the awakening happens inside of you. And I didn't have the awakening to what was actually going on in this world, as far as who is the controllers of this world, until 2012, several years later. So those are two different awakenings. So what's happening now with a lot of people, some people are waking up, especially the last 2 years, are waking up to the truth of what is actually happening, that the news is not telling us the truth. And so they're actually getting to see with their own eyes truth. And a lot of people who are just waking up to that aren't spiritually awakened. And so when you wake up to the globalist agenda without knowing who you truly are, that can be very frightening in itself. And the whole thing is not to be in a state of fear, because fear is what feeds the globalist agenda. That is their only weapon. Their only weapon is to put the masses in a state of fear, which they have been doing for the past 2 years. So fear is not the response when you awaken. But so if a person just awakens to the truth of what is actually happening, it may cause them not to be afraid of what the media wants you to be afraid of, but now you're afraid of the big boogeyman, we'll say, okay? But when you know who you are, I mean, know it, not believe it. When you know in your heart and soul who you are as a sovereign divine being of light, nothing can put you in a state of fear, nothing. And I am so joyful and so in attitude of gratitude and celebration, because I know that humanity's great awakening is happening. It has been happening for the past 2 years. We're 2 years in, and millions have awakened to the truth of what's happening. But now we need to also add on top of that the truth of who we are. When we know exactly who we are, we have no fear. It's just, that is just a part of knowing who you are. There is no fear. Also, to address what Kim had said, Kimberly, she was saying about what's going on. Yes, it's heartbreaking in the world. And what we send is love and light to that. But also know that every soul, every divine soul chooses exactly when to come into this life experience, and it chooses exactly when to leave this life experience. There are no accidents. There are no coincidences. Everything is in perfect divine order and perfect divine timing. I'm looking at the reflections in my glasses and I don't like it, but I'm recording this at night. So I had to have some light in front of the computer and it's making my glasses look weird. But anyway, maybe if I sit back, let's see. Okay, I'm self-conscious now about my glasses, but I want to share this message with you guys. I think it's important to understand that we need both. We need to be aware of what's going on in the world, the truth of what's going on in the world, but not allow that truth to put us in a state of fear, or a state of hopelessness. Oh, little me, what can I do? When we think, oh, little me, what can I do? We do not know who we are. We are all powerful. We all have the power within us. And when we awaken to that truth, nothing can harm you. Nothing can harm you physically or spiritually, because spiritually, your soul can never be harmed. But you can't even be harmed physically when you awaken to the truth of who you are, because you are in complete control. So I just wanted to share that. Please like and share below. I can't share this whole conversation on YouTube, but the whole conversation will be on BitChute, and I hope you enjoy. Have a great evening, night, morning, wherever you are. Namaste to everyone. Much love and peace. Bye-bye.